from the non-advertisement issues and appeal regarding the CESE grievances, the Nnqf took up legal measures. In 2019 court case filed by the Nagaland Net Qualified Forum Nnqf, file WP number 12/2019, WP number 65/2019, challenging the appointment of 208 backdoor assistant professors. This case in the Honorable Guwahati High Court Kohima bench was dismissed on the ground of certain technicalities and not on the merit of the case. Taking into consideration the suggestion made, the Nnqf refiled the petition in 2022 and 2023. In 2022 next petition, 18 Nnqf members filed the WP number 304/2022, challenging the backdoor appointment of 30 assistant professors appointed without qualification, which is still pending for final hearing. While this case was still in court, a statement was made by the Minister of Higher Education in the 13th Nagaland Legislative Assembly to regularize 154 contractual assistant professor posts, leading to the Nnqf in submitting a representation to the Minister of Higher Education, Sri Temjen Imna Along, on 23rd September 2022. The representation made an appeal to the Minister to withhold the process of regularization of the contractual assistant professors in the Higher Education Department, citing the ongoing court case. In 2023, the next petition was filed. The Nnqf filed 12 writ petitions subject-wise, challenging 115 appointments in the WP number 188/2003 to 2023 to the WP number 208/2023, which are pending for final hearing. On 18th of December 2024, a notification for absorption of contractual employees, citing clause number 28 of the service rule, which says, where undue hardship is likely to be caused to any person by the application of any of these rules, the governor shall have the power to relax the application of that rule in respect of that person for good and sufficient reason, which shall be without prejudice to the interest of any other members of the service. Re-appeal through the local dailies to the concerned minister was given again on 9th October 2024, an open letter to the governor again on 18th January 2025 as opposition to the absorption of the assistant professors and librarians. Further, the wide circulation on 8th April 2025 notification on transfer and posting resulted in unrest among the aspirants, leading to 6-day protests in the month of April 2025. The protest results in revocation, but requisition remains. The revocation was done on 30th April 2025. The Ctan and the Nnqf gave a deadline through the memorandum to the Chief Secretary till May 21, 2025, following which the members of the Nnqf and the Ctan visited the Secretariat on 22nd May 2025. The Chief Secretary was out of station and no information from the Commissioner Secretary. The high-powered committee set up by the Government of Nagaland has not made any conclusion to the public till date. That is a brief history of our movement. Outstanding academician who maintains a balance of rationality and authentic. Talk to
people coming here for a talk, for a conversation. This reminds me of the Reformation days for the civil rights movement, where people just walk on the streets to demand for the right that they deserve. And I believe we all are here believing that there is something called our rights, there is something called our Constitution that has ensured us, guaranteed us the right to live as a citizen, to enjoy equal rights in all measures possible. So I believe today is a time when we need to interact with each other, when we need to listen to our speakers. I mean, you can see the diverse backgrounds and professional life that they have come from, and I'm glad that they are readily available to have this conversation. I'm sure they will contribute valuable insights so that we go back with something and some sort of a vision and some sort of energy that will always push us to fight for the right thing, or rather to stand up for the right thing. When I see young people gathered to stand up for their rights, it reminds me of a revolution in Czechoslovakia in 1989 known as the Velvet Revolution. That they overthrew a regime that was authoritarian, that was despotic, and that was a communist regime, led by one person. The student movement overthrew them, without any fear. But what was remarkable about the Velvet Movement, Velvet Revolution, was that they did that without shedding even a single drop of blood. No violence. It was so beautiful that we still remember that part of history. When we talk about fighting for your rights, when we talk about activism for the right thing. So, without further ado, I think we just dive into the conversation, and we truly appreciate your participation and the perspective that you're going to bring into this conversation as well. And we believe and hope that we all will get benefited from this conversation. And as a moderator, I had briefed to them saying that let's just have a very candid conversation, a conversation that does not have any filter, but a conversation that is filled with sharing your hearts and speaking up your mind, rather than just stifling yourself or preventing yourself from saying what you want to say, and for reasons like the political correctness. So today we will shed all of that aside, and we will have a beautiful conversation. I'm sure it will benefit all of us. So thanks everyone, and welcome to the conversation, dear all speakers and panelists. So we've heard about the brief history of this Nnqf and the movement that they had led so far in the history of how they started, and why they're reacting to certain orders that came from the government, and to which they feel that it was not right, it was not fair, it was not constitutional. And we have seen the fearless protest, which was done beautifully, which was done without any form of violence. And that was truly, truly admirable, and we truly love to appreciate you all for that. Now we need to look back. First of all, we want to jump into the idea of the high-powered community that was formed, and we want to understand first and analyze whether that kind of formation of a high community was necessitated, and what was the idea behind that. And when we read history, when we read all this, we know that such communities are formed normally when there is a need for expert to define things, to recommend some very, very important ideas when you make policy. But I feel that this movement seems to be rejecting that formation. And I want to hear from everyone. Since the formation of the high-powered community, I would like to also understand what is your view on it, and what have you been speculating about it, and how that can really help resolve this unfairness that you have been calling on in the last few weeks, or rather a month. So I would give this time to everyone, but I think we have a time for individual speeches as well, right? So my assumption was that speakers will take their own time first to give introductory remark, and after that we will jump into the conversation. So I will give first time to Mr. Iralu to take his time and give an introductory remark to begin the service.
Thank you, Moderator Ransom. I would like to say that I want to build on this point, that our problems, our difficulties, and our conflicts are meant to change us and take us forward, instead of fragmenting us, make us hate one another, and destroy us. I hope what I'm saying will has some connection with what is going to be discussed today. This public dialogue has emerged from the protests conducted by Ctan and Nnqf. They have done the right thing, calling for and challenging the public, especially today's Nagas, to come today to ask, listen and speak on the issues, as only by doing so, by responsible persons like you, the future will be shaped. I appreciate the invitation to participate in this dialogue. I am honored. Although probably in this dialogue, probably all of you will understandably be certainly asking why someone going beyond the octogenarian age group should at all be at such an event as this one today. I won't blame you. The prolonged protest showed there is deep concern, frustration, bitterness, and outraged anger, but also belief in a better future in those who conducted the most demanding, costly protest, and equally in those who questioned and opposed it, as we know. That is, I think that is a note to all of us. Both sides are serving a vital purpose for the difficult growth of our young society. We human beings are not created to breathe physically only. We should understand what all of us have felt and expressed over the problems of the protest, to be our people mentally, spiritually, ethically, politically breathing. Because by this other breathing that comes from our brain, mind, our heart, our conscience and soul deep down, they go together. Human beings and societies grow fully and properly. I'd like to request for those four things to be involved together in such a struggle, to be taken and considered. I have not grasped the many interlinked details of the problems that have accumulated so dangerously and which have brought about this public initiative by the younger generation. But I believe the central critical issue on which all sides who have been damaged in different ways, as understood by them, this side or that side, all sides who have been damaged in different ways. And there is the urgent, imperative need for our government and society to bring into unchallengeable practice and adherence what is called due process, something all of us know. But I would like to focus on that one. Due process ultimately is where both sides are trying to make their point. And that's very important. Due process is whereby justice and fairness for all are seen to be achieved in the governance and development of society. Our problems, difficulties, differences are our common wealth, our asset. They are part of God's plan for our growth through our change, our understanding of the crisis that is in the midst of, imperiling us. All fights for justice like this and progress gets to be more and more difficult. At first, simple, as we all know, Naga struggle, for example, it is so exciting and it seems to be, we become euphoric. But because we are struggling in a very, very bad world that has been bad for centuries and centuries, on a big scale, we are only a tiny part of that, it gets to be more and more difficult. And you know better than I how more and more difficult it has become for all of you. But I salute you for taking it up and responding on such a scale and showing enthusiasm. Thank you, the great rising generation of the Nagas.
Mr. Kabuto Chishi can take his time now.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all so much for showing up. I was very skeptical when we did this program about the attendance, but I'm so happy to see all of you. I think you've all heard of the death by 1,000 cuts. It's, I think, I believe it's a Chinese, it was an early Chinese practice to kill somebody, not outright, but by making small cuts, 1,000 cuts. So now that we are suffering, we are going to face a death through 1,000 cuts. The protest by Iralu and Chishi, I've been watching, I've been reading the comments on the various channels that it was broadcast. And you see quite a number of comments saying, what about the forest department, what about this department, that department. You have to understand that this is happening in every aspect of Naga society. Whether you're in a village, whether you're in a town, whether you're educated, whether you're uneducated, whether you're skilled labor, whether you're unskilled labor, we are facing injustice in every aspect of our lives. And it is not for us. We have to understand that when somebody is facing injustice, we should not sit back and say, it doesn't concern me. Or, hey, what about my case? It is high time we realize that if anybody protests, we should all stand together. Because we are all suffering the same injustice in different fields. So I am here today, again, last time I came, I will always be there to support in any way anybody who's facing injustice in any field. And this is something we Nagas must realize. We make all these false analogies with Mizoram. But Mizoram too, they are a nearly homogeneous society. In Nagaland we have so many tribes, so many clans, so many villages, and we are always being divided on tribal lines, on lines of clan, area, village. We must understand that what is right, what is wrong is wrong. There are no shades of grey. You have to understand that. And I am very grateful that this is the first time our educated young people have stood for an issue, and I hope that you can bring this, you have managed to bring about the revocation of the appointment. And let us fight together to make sure that the government requisitions these posts to the advocacy. Thank you.
Please take your time.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today my talk is not exactly listed there, but I want to just give you something on the National Education Policy 2020 and show you where our government is sleeping, what the government wants to do. We have 17 colleges, government colleges in Nagaland, with about 600 faculties. We've had numerous problems, mostly quality, but some government colleges delivered, they did well, but that system is outdated. In fact, the system got terribly outdated. So this NEP 2020 came in, where the curriculum framework was redesigned to include skill education, internships, and research. These are the important components of the NEP 2020. Now we had a 3-year degree course spread over, 6-semester degree course spread over 3 years. Today we have the 7th and 8th semester. This means the degree program, this is optional, the 4th semester, the 4th year, the 7th and 8th semesters. Now the advantage for students of the passing of the 8th semester is that they get to go for do a 1-year master's degree program. And those who have done exceptionally well, who have scored 75 or 80%, I don't remember, some of you will remember. From the 8th semester, they can start a PhD. They can start going for a PhD. So the system has been revamped, it has become very friendly, it has become very forward-looking. So when this is happening, when somebody can go straight for a PhD after the 8th semester, it means that the 7th and 8th semesters have a big component of research. So today, we need faculties who have PhDs as well, which become very important. So all of you are aspirants. Some of you are working for a PhD, some of you have your PhDs. Those of you who are still thinking, better work for it faster. Because even if you get recruited through the NPSC without PhDs, you will require a PhD for future promotions. Now the national gross enrollment ratio of 2020 was 27.3%. Nagaland, it was just 18.7%. That's 8.6% below the national GER. Now the National Education Policy's target is 50% by 2035, 10 years from now. But Nagaland are being prepared as is right down in the dumps. Annually about 10,000 students join the government colleges, are admitted to the government colleges, which is just 30%. That means 70% are going to the private colleges. There's something wrong with the government colleges. We don't have enough teachers, we don't have enough infrastructure. The NEP coverage is very vast. So there are a lot of implementation challenges. It's understood, but there was time. So all the states were expected to expand the infrastructure, increase the manpower. That's basically teaching positions. But it seems Nagaland, we have still been sleeping. Because besides this 147 posts that were created for those, for a particular category of people, there's no post creation. That means we are very ill prepared, but we have already accepted NEP 2020. So the government has to take responsibility. Now I've seen another problem which is not related to this, but there is one point where it is related. Reservation of posts for certain backward communities. I'm not against any backward community, but it pinches in one place. Now there is a government order that says that these posts don't elapse. So that means we have seen some posts that cannot be filled up because there are no qualified candidates for the last 3, 4, 5 years. Government colleges are short of teachers. Every single post for those departments of the colleges matter a lot. The government has to wake up. Something has to be resolved. We cannot keep these pending indefinitely. Now, one good thing with this NEP 2020 is that it encourages institutional autonomy. We have 3 autonomous colleges in Nagaland. The Koyama Science College is the only government college, and 2 private colleges. The government should have been doing much better. Now, this autonomy, the government of India is willing to give to deserving colleges, but there are some requirements. More teachers, more qualified teachers, and a basic infrastructure. We have to improve. Now, this is a very competitive international arena that we are in today. The key to growth is knowledge generation. At the heart of knowledge generation is research. Without research, no knowledge is generated. We cannot compete with anybody outside our territory. The world's top institutions like Harvard University, MIT, Caltech, Cambridge, Oxford, Yale, Princeton, etc. are basically research universities. They have devoted their time, major chunk of their time for research. So that's what they are right on top. One fine day about a decade back, the government of India woke up to find the first list of the world's top universities that India did not figure in the top 1. Now that was a shock with our IITs, the IIMs, and the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. It was a big shock. That time, the thrust in India was 60% classroom academics and 40% for research, because research is an important component. But that woke us up. So then the government of India insisted that 60% of our effort should be on research. Only 40 for academics. That's almost 10 years back, and we still have not climbed into the top 200 universities of the world. So the need for today in Nagaland in particular is to upgrade our higher education by blending academics and research, very intensive research. We have to ensure change. So for this we need sufficient, high quality teachers. High quality, highly qualified teachers. Otherwise our students, our own Naga students, are doomed to mediocrity. And it's something we are seeing today. Now we have some expectations from the government. That is, if 147 posts are given, I'm still skeptical. Even if the 147 posts come, I still think we may be short of teachers. There are 17 government colleges. We expect all the major colleges, that's Dimapur Government College, Fazlani College, Zimbabwe Government College, and Koyama Science College, Koyama College, and all to be upgraded. We expect them to start the additional year, the 7th and 8th semesters. Probably Koyama Science College is I'm not sure. But for that, we need extra teachers, we need extra infrastructure. Now there's a problem. Contracts, as miserably. There was too much of manipulation, extensive manipulation, so the government itself abolished contract appointments. But for higher education, we have to see it rationally. With the shortage of posts, creation of posts take time. Sending a requisition to the NPSC takes time. But in the meantime, departments of various colleges should not suffer. So we can think of appointing guest faculties for 6 months or for a semester, which can be reviewed, but following all the quality procedures as advertising openly and inviting them, interviewing them, making the best. That's what has been happening in Nagaland University for many years. And then we also expect the government to build up the necessary infrastructure for at least major colleges. And I don't believe that Nagaland is a failed state. I hope that Nagaland will never be a failed state. So if that's the case, then I think Nagaland should have at least one multidisciplinary state university. Nagaland government should not shy away. We need it if we are to grow intellectually. They say about 30 or 40 crore rupees is going out of Nagaland annually because many of our students go out for studies. We don't have space for them here. And also we have, as an afterthought I also put this, we have expectations from the NPSC also. Transparency. I feel there should be transparency and we should ensure there is transparency. Of course, maybe it's definitely the case when the NPSC recruits following taking the minimum qualifications. In UGC has specified NET as the minimum qualification. PhD is not mandatory. But if there are cases where the PhD candidates with PhDs, preference of weightage should be given. Because ultimately we need to develop our university, our colleges into research institutions. So with this short address, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Good morning. Sir, I hope I'm audible. Okay. The reason why we support Ctan and Nnqf is that when we talk to machine law, Paketo, Vide, we found that they were not fighting anything for themselves, not for their personal gain. But one very inspiring message we got from them was that what has happened to us, this should not happen to the posterity, to the future generation. That is why today my organizations, we have come forward to support them. We are their staunch supporter. As a matter of fact, today, my ideas may be irrelevant to you because I did my research and a little bit of homework on different colleges, different government colleges, and I wanted to interact with the government officials, which are empty. Those chairs were for the government officials, and then my idea was to interact with them and to learn from them. This is not a government bashing program, as a matter of fact, but to have a healthy discussion, to have a happy discussion. Because, okay, revocation is done, recusation is not done. But even if the recusation is done, the dialogue, the conversation should go beyond that. Unfortunately, today, our officials did not come, and I feel sorry for them. Why am I here today? And one question that people ask me, and also they say that, why are you supporting them? One very simple answer I gave to one government official was that I don't want to see our children, I don't want to see my brothers and sisters on the street again. I want them to study, because during the protest, what we saw, some of you came out shouting slogans. At the end, when you get a little bit of time, you just go inside, sit on the floor, and then open your books, and you start your work again. So those things we really don't want to. But to the government officials, to the government, I just want to tell them that I don't want to see you on the street, but if they behave like this, when questions were asked, they say that, we will not stand for media trial. When they are invited for invitation, they never appear, they never come to us. And to the different organizations, what I want to say is that, because somebody just day before yesterday asked me, what is 147? And I said, my answer was that 147 is the small tablet, small medicine to heal Nagaland. So if we fail this time, then I don't see any future for Nagaland. I think this battle is very, very important. That is why you have our full support. And even in future, in whatever way we can, we are ready to help you. We are always here to, give you our support. And the need is very much felt now in our society to check our system. System is horribly wrong. One driver molested a girl, arrested, suspended. Remy Wilfred, he was booked under POCSO Act. Booked, no? The verdict should have been out within 6 months to 1 year. And then he was awarded a better post in the finance department. Idle. FIR was registered. FIR was registered. Huh? But he called media and he gave an interview at his office chamber again. Is this the system? Are we going to follow this kind of system? Is there a system for rich and poor? So that is why we really need to discuss with the government officials and the other thing. Regarding 147, I think today that is the main topic that we are going to discuss, we are going to focus on it. And then I will give time to my other colleagues also so that we will have more time for discussion. Thank you.
A very good morning to all of you. First of all, I want to say thank you to all of you for turning up today. And also, I want to say thank you to all the speakers here who has given their time to come and have a discussion with us. Okay, I won't take much of the time away. Kecil discussion time ini, awak boleh pun ada ni. Kita tu boleh pun terlalu. See, the order has already been revoked. But the problem is, why is the requisition not being sent? Itu clarify boleh ada. We invited the minister, we invited the officials also. We get a letter to them. So after some days, we went to their office, requested them to come and see us. Because see, and there are document dari your number. What is black is black, what is white is white. So public law also the time ini patau nak boleh. Why is the requisition so difficult to be sent? We wanted them to highlight that to the public. Only they didn't turn up to run. Only see now just recently the Nnqf they have filed RTI. We have 2 RTI on the same day. So this is what the department is doing. When the RTI is asking question or about the total sanction posts of assistant professors and librarians, in one of the RTI the reply is 609. I'm saying, okay, RTI was filed on the same day, BKB. So it was 609 as it were, or it was 500 something as it were. Such a sanction post was the way. Now, after 2022, they asked for at a particular year in a post creation order than post creation number post creation display 2024 last year 17 December at the post creation at the post creation bisa so baru ini public jadi dulu so maybe in the later part we'll discuss more. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all speakers for briefly highlighting the issues. Yes.
Since we have already mentioned discussed about the issue, I would like to talk about how just as revocation without requisition is incomplete, even if requisition takes place, there are certain concerns regarding the CAC which makes the exam certain concerns that makes it questionable with regard to transparency and fair recruitment. And so based on that argument, I want to point out 3 things here. The first thing is with regard to mark verification. When it comes to the CAC, the Government Educational Services exam, they have allotted out of 100 marks, we have 100%. They have allotted 40% to the academic board of the expert, and 45% to the written examination, 50% for the interview. Now here the concern is particularly with the 40% that they have allotted to the academic board. Now we will see that there is variation among the aspirants. Some aspirants will fall under the annual system, some under the semester system. Now there is a stark difference in terms of their scoring. Then there are also variations across universities. Some universities are very strict with their markings, whereas some universities are lenient with their markings. So based on this 40%, some sections of aspirants are already at this examination, even before they write the exam. Then only 45% are going to the written exam, then we have 15%. Now there are, of course, we understand that there has to be that is allotted for the interview. However, we also find that there are disparities against there. When you look at different aspirants, some of them will have better articulation skills, a wider range of vocabulary, mannerisms, and presentations. That will differ. Now, we are not saying that is wrong, but there's already an existing disparity in society. And therefore, in order to narrow down those disparities, I think the interview percentage also has to come down to at least 10% as other examinations. So these are some of the concerns that we have addressed and deal with the concerned authorities also. And we come to this recommendation that if we are looking for fair recruitment, the authorities should bring down the academic report from 40% to 20%. And as mentioned earlier by Professor Tong, they should give more emphasis on research publication, even teaching experience. Then the interview should be limited to 10%, as in other exams, and the written examination should be increased to 70%. That's our suggestion. These are some of the demands that we have put in one of our petition. As you go out, you will sign, agree on this point. Now the second point that I want to emphasize is with regard to transparency, which has already been mentioned. Now when the CAC results are out, you only get to know your marks. You find an RTI, but you only get to know your marks. You don't know the marks of the person who has cracked the exam. You don't know the marks of the person who is awaiting this. Now, we're not questioning their competency, but if we are going to push for transparency and fair process of recruitment, then the disclosure of marks of the candidates should be a priority of the authorities. There's another thing we want to push for. And the third concern regarding the CAC exam is regarding the aligned subject eligibility. Now, UGC Gazette 2018 clause 4.1 allows aligned subjects to apply for a specific subject. So say for example, there's a vacant position for sociology.
candidates who have master's degree in social work, social development, social anthropology, and apply to that post. Or if there's posts for political science, people with higher master's degree can also apply to that post. However, when inquired, the higher education stated that they do not allow that. It's only for a specific subject. Okay, so that is fine. But the concern arose when they allowed some people from the allied category to give the exam. So it happens that in such instances, there are two people who studied in the same university, the same subject, one was allowed, one was rejected. So our demand is also that they apply uniformity. They are not going to invoke this clause from the UGC that allows the right subjects for uniformity. Or if they want to push for a more inclusive form of recruitment, then let there be wider participation by allowing categories from the allied subjects to participate in the examination. So I'm highlighting this concern to try to CAC because since today we're talking about transparency, fair recruitment, and to make sure that there is right equal opportunity for all the citizens of Nagaland and for all the aspirants, keeping in mind that there's already a disparity in the society, to make sure that this disparity does not get reproduced in the education system or in the recruitment system. We're sharing this discussion.
That highlighted has been very interesting and mind-provoking. It also calls us to dive deeper into all those issues. I think we don't want to make this like sound like a press conference, although we can have this conversation and objectively reason out, not necessarily supporting each other, but rather we can also see like whether we are doing the right thing, whether what we are demanding, we as the movement demanding is objective enough for all of us to continue the movement, right? So I would like to also understand from the panelists, I would call them panelists, call them panelists. Professor Jin Tong and some of you have also mentioned about the way, the process of recruitment. When we look around the world at the topmost universities, we see that for recruitment for assistant professors in academics, we see that the recruitment process is mostly about the research papers that they have published in the past. At the same time, hardly it comes to written exam, hardly it comes down to MCQ exam and so on. I think, but in the context of Nagaland, it's very much still there. I'm not saying that it's bad or good, but I just want to lay out and hear your opinion. It's such a, academic position is such a reputed and very respected position. I think we all need to give that in mind and believe. And for such an important position, how do we look at it? Do you think such exam formats still are valid, or how do we look at it? In terms of teaching experience, would be very, very crucial. Like Dr. Vijay mentioned about 10% for the interviews. I mean, those subjective matters would be very, very helpful to recruit the best persons, to transfer knowledge and to help students learn more about the subject rather than being able to write. There are many criteria, of course, but one criterion I believe can be teaching experience, vast teaching experience, in-depth knowledge about the subject, like how much research papers they have published in peer-reviewed journals, in those reviewed journals. So I think the system that we have right now and the kind of ideal system that we want to achieve. Because I want to mention that even West Bengal they have a selection committee, not done through West Bengal Public Service Commission. They have a separate commission to recruit teachers and assistant professors. And in the context of Nagaland, what would be the objective way to look at when we recruit teachers? Let's now forget, people said for a while that there should be fair recruitment. Fairness, we always encourage that, we always support that. But more than that, how do we objectively look at academics to make sure everyone gets benefited from the teacher, not just by passing written exam, MCQ exam. And that's something I just want to provoke you on that. There's no assigned term, but anyone can just take time and we can have that discussion around that as well.
Shall I? Let's tell you something. Do you have this APSC curriculum? Aspirants also have to write they have to go through a written test. So let me tell you about myself. 1984, most of us, except a few senior citizens, none of them were born. when I sat with the LPSC, there was no written test. It was straight to the interviews. Now let me tell you something about the Central Universities of India. They don't conduct written tests. Now, the minimum qualification is NET, National Eligibility Test. This is a very tough examination. And a lot of people have gone through it. This is a tough written examination. So you don't need to test their written skills again. This is my personal opinion. And we have been recruiting in the Iralu University for the last 28, 29 years since I was there. We don't conduct written tests. It's just waiting for the interviews. The LPSC can come to terms with this. Because it's from the written tests, I always believe that some manipulation can happen. It's just my personal belief. Okay? But things can happen inside.
Regarding what Dr. Thomas said, NET was a basic qualifying test. It was as Dr. Really said earlier, the different universities have different forms of marks. So some universities get very good marks, some get very bad marks. So there must be a common test which judges your knowledge. And it was just brought to my attention yesterday by one of my young friends who sent me a text saying that the new education policy has eliminated the NET. No, I don't think it's 1950. So, 2020, if I'm not mistaken. So this is my grounds with the government of now, with our elected. Any policy that the center initiates, we accept it blindly, because we know that we are corrupt. If we kick back a little also, they will come after us. Say oil palm. Now, KEP, they were against the oil palm calculation, but they accepted the vote still. Then earlier, when this highway was being built in the Pagla project, dynamite also, our friend Mr. Robertson, he objected to the use of dynamite. But our government just allowed them, and look what's happening. Just to see what truck drivers like again. I think how many deaths have taken place there. So things like this, and education is supposed to be in this concurrent list. So the state has a voice also. So it is very frustrating when our leaders do not fight for the benefit of a society. So I want you to understand that all these affect our future. And all these are means of promoting the self-interest. Say, universities in Bihar, UP, you can get 10% marks also. You come with that and you come from a tough university, and automatically you're disqualified. I mean, not disqualified, but automatically you lose the chance of access to employment. So things like this, I don't know how we will solve it, but say NPSC, if we have a common test, we don't have to go through written tests and this.
Yes, this has been a discussion with common experience and scholars, and we all have different opinions on this. But I would differ from Professor Ong here. The problem, many students who go to the central universities outside, we have a problem with articulation. We're good in written, but we struggle to come on par with our counterparts from other regions across the country. So articulation becomes a problem for many, not for all of them. And in interviews, what happens is that you, as a university, go for an interview, make the interview. However, there is also a requirement for referees. So they have recommendations from professors. So there's a competition there. So people with good references, it's easier for them to get a job. Whereas people who don't have less reputed professors, it's difficult for you to get a job. And then another thing is there is also possibility for manipulation in interviews. The one time we gave an interview for One How College, I gave the interview as a contract advertisement with both my juniors and the seniors. We were all there, it was like a reunion. But finally, when the results came out, all of us were questioning on what basis the candidate was selected. So we filed an RTI to check all our marks. So there is a section for subject expertise, there's one for personality. And in personality, there's a difference of like someone got 12, someone got 13. So what is it that makes that person get 30 for personality? So we feel that written, a higher percentage of written will be more fair rather than interview. That's our opinion.
Actually, I brought up this because this question paper leak has become is BJP's misery today. Everywhere there are question paper leaks, and the NPSC, ladies and gentlemen, to be very honest, they do not have a clean past. In fact, some of the NPSC officials and staff were also arrested in the past, not very recent past. This was leakage of question papers and things like that. So, the interviews may be very good, but somebody may score very high at the written examinations. But just as what? The Supreme Court has also started getting this thing on like their proceedings. So maybe one day you should also think of those lines. What's so confidential about their case?
Okay. I want to share something about NPSC. Nagaland Public Service Commission is so outdated. Okay. See, we got started very long back, so till today NPSC does not have subject experts. And in the beginning I thought that NPSC has the sole power. But after so many years of fighting for corruption, what I learned was NPSC is just a robot. When the elected members press button yes, whenever yes go, no, whenever no, they are just implementing all this. And they themselves also, they don't want to get updated. Our Nagaland is as such that I'm sure most of you knows, really, all the exams that are conducted under NPSC, we don't have subject experts to set questions for Common Educational Service, Combined Technical Service, NCAs, all those exams, whichever is conducted, questions are set by outsiders. You know that? Pusat Iwo, Kompani Kumagi, questions set with Iwo, Idigay, with And so from our side, we have requested them to, I think now it's high time that NPSC should be updated. It's high time you should have subject experts in every field because we have enough qualified people. Kuli mun subject biaya tu last year NPSC website hang kusi jana na. Aro mian form fill up kore kami hang kusi jana NPSC hang mana na. That is the problem that when I end up pointing my fingers at the policy makers. They are the one. See, policy makers, they are updating only their buildings and their size of plot of land amount of update was I like to some classes. Honestly, I don't know when it comes to this marking system, their marking system really has interview marks, manipulation, association like us, we fight against the government and we brought down the interview mark also. Earlier it was 75, it is 55 in NCS. I'm sure all of you know. Because we didn't trust the individual now, but we will. That's when you brought it down. Our marking system was a common educational service exam running marking system to take night that we feel because university and high marks mark to confuse example like my engineering and prove example like my college, it's very difficult to score mark. Now we for common technical exam they do writing interview only common education to marking system as well. And now how can this be changed? Only if the department service rule is changed. And who is going to bring the change? The elected members. And that is the reason I always blame put my fingers against them. So they have to update their mind also.
Nagaland High Court Jagan Saish Pulido, that cases can more than 90% of the cases of the service rules. Nagaland High Court cases, more than 90%.
Maybe that's a sign of unemployment. Alright, I think we're in the sense that we have that, we felt helplessness that it's a systemic issue, right? Regardless of whatever you do, something or the other will not work. So I think we have to talk about how to make it more objective in the form of competition or the recruitment process. And you have mentioned the commission, engineer has mentioned that they have to fight to reduce the interview mark, and they managed to do that a little bit. Still, interview is still very subjective. It's open to interpretation, or it's open to it can lead to manipulation. It's totally based on someone's judgment. I think for that matter, I think for me, to my mind, that's well accepted. Now the point also comes to, it's also a big concern for the fact that what if we make it very objective in a sense, in the process of recruitment, that we end up like recruiting UPSC and NPC aspirants, civil service aspirants. That all. Meantime, I support the idea that yes, we need objectivity in the process of recruitment. But what if we end up like the BSc recruitment style, which becomes more and more objective, and there's no way it can be disputed in many cases, right? It's very, very objective. There's no much room for misinterpretation or manipulation as such. But what for an academic position, if it comes down to such objectivity, and what if we reduce the quality of teaching? I think that's a concern that I want to raise. I would like to understand and hear from you how you will interpret that. Yes, for now we understand that we have a system problem. The system has to change and it will take time. But I think at least what you are demanding at this time is a requisition. At least, it may not be 100% fair and objective, but at least there's a system, and like Uncle David mentioned, that we need to follow the due process, established process. I think requisition should happen by any means. Whether it's clean or not clean, let's forget at the time. But at least that process should be followed for now. But how do we reconcile the idea of maintaining objectivity in the recruitment process at the same time, not degrading the teaching quality? That's a very big concern for me as one who aspires to become academics as well in that sense. Yeah, please. Everyone open to it.
I'm very heartened that our Nnqf and Ctan are fighting. But I have no faith in our elected leaders and nothing else. This is a fact. These people are so dirty, so petty. No. They have not done these things out of ignorance or out of mistake. They have done it deliberately. And you have won a very big victory by forcing them to cancel the regularization. But they are never going to requisition this. Now, because I believe that there was floating around that every one of these 147 paid a certain amount of money. No. So whoever took the money has to keep these people tight to recover their money. So the only, in spite of my disappointments with the judiciary, the only option is to get the courts to intervene and force them to requisition these posts. Since they can regularize them, why can't they requisition the posts? They cannot say that these are sanctioned posts, non-sanctioned posts, nothing like that. So that is my take. No. And regarding Nnqf, see, interviews are very subjective. Now, my brother, when he appeared, he interviewed in 1982. Even their tribalism was very prevalent. So he got into an argument with one of the members of the Nnqf, and the chairman, who was a Sikh gentleman, he intervened and told that member, that we are not here to question his knowledge of the subject. That has already been done in the recruitment. As I said earlier, we're just here to test his personality. So things like that. I don't think any of you people didn't bother to read my manifesto when I contested the elections. But in my manifesto, I wrote clearly that in every competitive exam, the candidate will have the right to compare his written answer script with those of others, and every interview will be video recorded. See, one of my young lady friends, she appeared in a social welfare thing for not for regular job, but for contracting. They just asked her name and sent her away. And in fact, she was told in advance, no point trying for it. It's already been demolished. So things like that, you have to understand. But as I said earlier, I believe our only recourse is legal aid. So, if any of you know anybody in the legal fraternity who is looking to pick up this case, I also tried contacting some people. I'm in the process. We talk, withdraw, and that is the only hope. Because these people I don't trust.
I think we have not trust deficits here. Some not trusting the NPSCs. I think the last resort for maybe for this conversation would be going to the court, as Mr. Chishi mentioned. I think as we keep having a conversation, I would like to remind you that in the end we will have a question and answer hour. So if you have any thoughts, or not necessarily questions, but if you have any thoughts that you want to share or ask, please be ready with that. So we will give you time for that. You can write on a sheet and share with us as well. So yeah, please take your time for it.
About these bad people. There's no doubt at all. But I think, I personally feel that if I were in the position, not out of any ill will, I'll do a much worse job. Because everything is new that we're trying to do, and we have very little background resilience. I would say this fellow has a lot of resilience because of his background. We'll discuss that later. But I think that is why so many things are done wrong. Just because we don't know how to do differently. I feel that we are witnessing a huge thing that your group has brought together like this. A few years ago, we couldn't get a group like this, especially of young people. Just because I think they were not, I don't know, you know so many things now, and so you're so smart now, honestly said, so well informed because of the information technology, IT, and all that. You're grasping them and you're benefiting from it. And so such a group, I've never seen a group like this. They're so alert. showing such interest. So I feel that I would like to appeal to all of you that don't give up at all to make this better and better. This process that you are part of, led by this group who have brought it into being, don't leave it to them to work it out. It's going to become very difficult, very difficult. And I don't think you will give up, but I make this lecture free. Jean Monnet, he was the international bureaucrat, economist, lawyer, and everything, Frenchman. And he was regarded as a man who created the European Union. With Chancellor Adenauer of Germany and Robert Schuman. Chancellor, he was the Prime Minister, and Robert Schuman was a Foreign Minister and Prime Minister eventually of France. After the Second World War, it was a terrible time of complete destruction of Europe and the world. And so they said, how do we make sure the Third World War doesn't come? And so it's a long story, but he's thinking, he's far-seeing wisdom, and from his own tested experience of many years, they succeeded in creating what they call the economic and political miracle of the European Union. You get all this in books now. And he said this quote is said to be the summing up of all his volumes, of all that he did. He said, nothing is possible without people. Nothing is possible without people. Nothing is lasting without institutions. And I feel that what you are doing is the building of institutions to serve our society, but you are the people. The institutions are very important, but the quality of the people who build and decide whether the institution without which nothing is lasting will work. And in that, some may be scientists, some may be doctors, some may be geologists, all kinds. Engineers, everything that all of us do. In that, each will have to understand that each one is equally responsible. Some may be more glamorous, some may be more talked about, but the role of a guy like me, I can't do anything glamorous like science, engineering, law, nothing like that. But I can listen to the inner guidance. I realized I could only do that. So I decided I was never going to give it up and keep improving it. I think discover each one of you, what is your role? Because you have a very important role to bring into our history something we've never had. Building of institutions to make our society, enable our society to go into the future. Going to be extremely difficult. I don't need to say that, you know more than I. But I think this is where all that we are discussing will enable us to understand the role each one has to play. Otherwise, we will see worse things happening. We'll have more bad people coming out doing worse jobs. But I just want to add that. I think that perspective has to be kept up, and really, if you were to come and look at you, something very big history is happening, but we don't know how to go forward. Therefore, don't give it up. Keep developing it. Nagas have never had such an interest from the younger generation.
I would also like to add that corruption is bigger than what we see. The transition of the Nagas from tradition to modernity. We have not been able to, the alien system that has been put on so to us So when we talk about corruption, of course there are intentional ways to corrupt the system, but there can also be unintentional ways where the system wasn't corrupt. There was a time when our uncles and our fathers would see that there used to be job offers. They used to be called to come for a job. So maybe following that tradition, maybe people were called, people that were appointed, and maybe it became, in the modern stage, it became the corruption that we see now. But we also have to look at it, understanding that it is a transition that we cannot be able to handle properly. So corruption can also be seen as intentional as well as unintentional. And regarding the quality of recruitment that we're discussing, I think if we are able to set the system right, then quality will eventually come down. I think the primary is to set the system to not just give up. So yes, we are able to structure the system the way we want. The quality will eventually follow.
This public dialogue on 147, this issue of 147, which has been courageously undertaken by Ctan and Nnqf, is not just movement which is fighting against the 147 regularization, but people view this movement as a larger movement where we see a glimmer of hope in bringing changes in the society, in the government, in the civil organizations, and also in the church. With everything being said and done, my question is, moving forward, is this association between the Ctan and the Nnqf going to be confined to just this issue of the 147? Or is it going to be a part of a larger movement where a lot of people have reposed their faith in you, keeping in mind the credibility and the caliber with which you have been leading this movement? So my question is, just at a juncture when the Naga youths, particularly young people, when they see a glimmer of hope, of transparency, of meritocracy, and of fair recruitment and true open competition, when they are reposing their faith in you, once we get to the question of the 147, whether it is sent for requisition, or it takes a lot of time, or it is not sent, but what about the future of this movement, which you have started? So this question I would like to put out to our two very esteemed leaders, Mr. Shanlo and Dr. Law. And I believe that this can be start of, it is already starting a very big chain reaction. And I truly feel that it should not be just confined to this 147. If we truly want to see change in our society, then like it has been said, we need to be the change we want to see in our society. But in order to do that, we also need someone to guide us. And I think Ctan and Nnqf has been doing a fantastic job in doing that. So moving forward, I would like to know your plans for the use of our state.
We have taken up issues in many departments. I should say this is not the first time we have taken up issues. So after this issue also, there are some departments where we have filed RTI, or there are some departments where we have given them a deadline of 30 days, which did not come out in public. So I have said this in some of the places also. If we are only very confined to this department, people may think that I am having some grudges, or our leaders are having some grudges against the department officials or against the ministers. This is what we have been doing since the beginning, and we will continue to do this. There are so many issues, like we have issues in social welfare, legal methodology. I am talking about the departments where we are taking up issues. Health and Family Welfare Department is here. And taking this platform, I would like to remind the Naga Hospital of Trinity also. Now see, the other day also, regarding this 147, I'm mentally being so much disturbed. We honestly say, Naga people are so lazy in a way. I just want to say, since they have my number, they think that I'm also very free like them. Unnecessarily they will give me. Now I love to take suggestions. Okay, out of topic, really, I'm also an individual. I'm a human. I have only one brain. One who decides, so you don't expect me to act like a machine. 24 hours active tayo na pareho. Kita tumuloy tayo. Why only this department? Why not checking this? Why ayaw mo lang Instagram lang text mo pareho to win a bro? Honestly, ito, we are also doing our best to at least clean up into department and later on to pick up also. Ito part of the publicity. Ini yang penting nak hospital de, nak hospital de low paisi. Manusia itu malu kusibar, dia malu kan kusibar kosu. Cuci kalau bawa ke hospital lagi sih. Also tu he is admitted in Naga hospital. Okay, so why is he bringing his father to hospital? Because there is no CT scan down here. Which is not. CT scan out of the excuse that the Naga Hospital authority is giving is saman chor hoye bise. Saman chor hoye CT scan 2-3 years diya hua hai. Really? So what we are trying to say, the name itself combined the People Association of Nagaland Assay. Actually we are to be confined only to the technical. We deal with any department which is not functioning properly. Or if necessary, Naga Hospital you have to be check room. And what I heard is, ICU lot down to private hospital giving down. They have given it to some private individuals. ICU government lobby cheap hole again. See, that is happening in our state. All of emotion we are really in other cases something we will continue to take up. Thank you.
As a team, we've been a very good team working together and Nnqf and I thank you for reminding us that we have the public support. As long as we have the public support, we will take up issues, particularly with this public dialogue. If this is very successful, maybe in the next we will take up another issue to discuss. But for other issues, there are certain issues that Ctan handles differently and Nnqf handles differently. If they invite us to collaborate with them, show me to that, and we'll also be there. Issues that we will ask them to collaborate. So it is there with that. Seeing this public dialogue, maybe we will continue to take it for other issues as well.